The smoke room. It's beautiful. It's a lot of fun and great to talk about this game, being in fact the first visual novel I ever played, but also yes, I must warn you that this is a visual novel for adults, especially only for adults. Since this game contains a heavy dose of explicit content, which is almost the reason it attracts so many viewers in the first place, it's actually one of those games where you came with the morbid curiosity of witness it, just to end up staying because of the plot. And I'm not really judging, it's the internet, so you are warned. By far this visual novel is quite impressive, being in fact the prequel to another VN called Echo, which already has enough weight to speak on its own video. Here it is not really the case of having previous knowledge of what Echo is. In fact, the smoke room serves well as its own story, which has elements that it shares with Echo. Compared in this case with Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, being a good introduction for Echo. The smoke room is a surprise from start to finish.
Sam, I'm here to get these people results, not good feelings. Those are just part of the package.
The novel begins with this, the main screen. There we see who will be our protagonist, Samuel, the best character in this visual novel. At the very beginning, he is presented with mystery. In fact, his very plot is surrounded by it. We don't know why he came to this town. We only know that he is not from here. Throughout the entire novel, we don't really know where he is from or why he came. We have only been shown that he wants to leave the town, showing up because Samuel is a hooker. During a simple conversation with Samuel's partner, Cynthia, we are introduced that the fact that Sam has a nightlife that he has worked in for a long time, long enough to be recognized by the town. After declining an invitation to have drinks with the other workers, Sam leaves the salon, showing us a nocturnal landscape. We meet Jack, a wolf. His bare appearance is not shown, although he is the only character throughout the novel who is important and is never fully shown. On the contrary, he is presented with this aura of mystery and dangerous. Throughout that it's kinda obvious. Distrust, fear above all, even more so when he tells us there's gold in the mines, enough to live comfortably far from Echo. Then we go to the mines and then this is where the novel truly begins. After committing a crime, Sam struggles to escape and the novel takes a complete turn. Rather than a normal visual novel story, like a romance or even a cheesy one, guilt is the main source here. It's explored at its bottom, a psychological thriller where we are shown through small glimpses the fear of thinking that someone knows what we did underground.
I've never once felt frightened below the ground, but I have felt frightened, thinking any time I hold you can be the last time, because you need to work. And I need to find someone I do not have to pay to hold. Or find some way to pay to hold you forever. Pay you what you're really worth. Not the payments.
This concept isn't explored at most visual novels, but it's well executed here. The smoke room pulses. The character and its narration help to culminate this feeling of someone or something else watching you. Something feeding off you. Here at this point we have been introduced to other characters, of which we are presented with several options as quotes. Whatever you choose to accept, a bet, a date, wait for someone, or meet someone privately. If you accept the bet, you will meet Murdoch, a fox, photographer, and son of the richest family in town. If you choose the date, you will meet Clifford, a weasel, an anthropology student, a mysterious guy indeed. If you agree to wait, you will meet Nick, a giant badger, a miner, but tender. In fact, this is my favorite character in the novel. And at the end, if you meet someone in private, you will get to know the town sheriff, William, a coyote. In fact, apart from Sam and Nick, he's the best written character in the novel. All these characters and their respective decisions will lead you to 4 different routes, each one telling their respective stories in more depth, but at the same time, it will lead you deeper to learn more about the town's history. With Murdoch, you get to know the social dynamics. Cliff will take you to know more about the history of the town, Nick his working class side and the mines, and William, he has the darkest route, especially when you know that he has to investigate the case of someone that has been decapitated.
Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention. Well, linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention. Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention.
You get to know people better. You actually get to know in a funny way that Sam's paranoia. It's ridiculous when he sees that others have more important things to worry about, and that's actually a very realistic irony. Everything we do wrong, beyond feeling that someone else knows, it's sad to note that in fact it will never be something seen and criticized by anyone other than out of morbid curiosity. It's great in that sense. Something beautiful within this novel is in its very aura. I'm not going to lie, it has a completely warm and comfortable aura. Within it, even with the horror and mysticism behind it, it achieves warm moments where you feel an embrace in its words. In fact, giving a spoiler, the best scenes that represent the spirit behind the novel itself, it's in the kiss scene with Nick and William. Both actually having spirits that makes you see the dangerous nature of the work, one in which you have the fear of losing someone, one in which you see how people live without any intention, one in which you see that the consequences do have a bearing on someone other than you. The horror of this work lies more than just loneliness. It's knowing that you're not alone, and that gives way to your decisions. But as a warning, the routes are not finished. Only Nicks are finished and available at this date. So, if you want to read the novel more confident in knowing the ending, more than anything else, read Nick's route. But let's continue. And even with only one ending, it feels somewhat beautiful to watch, but at the same time, it is strange and at times uncomfortable to witness that not everything was resolved, being something realistic and morbid. Not all characters seem worthy of knowing they will have a happy ending, but even so, it's seen as something, an excuse to replay the game itself. The soundtrack is also very supportive. It has themes designed to each of the important characters and their psychos. Murdoch with melancholy, Cliff with hyperactivity, William with monotony, and Nick with unity. something interesting is that there's actually a lovely surprise in having an original song from this novel, because yes, this one has an animation in each of the routes that reinforce the relationship you choose to watch. Each one, even with the same song, it has its own charm and charisma, something I quite love. The song itself actually deserves to be analyzed on its own terms. It's lively, it's fun, but at the same time it's cryptic. It has messages and hints of the spirit of the horror itself of the novel.
Now my mind grows foggy as those spirits fade. Look now how morning light is seizing our charade. Ruffled slacks, sweaty backs all about the floor. Revel quietly as others about you snore. Lock gazes and think upon my scene. You may find the things they hadn't yet and thoughts between. Lovers light, morning dark, and everything you know. There's many locks and keys as you allow.
And in terms of horror, this novel shines for its very variety.
She wants me to help make Jim like it better here. He told her swinging is big in the city. Told her that's the kind of life that he wants. So she told him you can do that around here too. And she knows about the kinds of things I do for other men.
Murder Route has a very realistic horror feel, somewhat mundane, but at the same time eccentric and full of fantasy and surreal horror, something we'd even see in the films of Paul Thomas Anderson. It plays with the broken spirit of human beings under the control of something else in a form of blackmail. Cliff Route plays more like an adventure horror, something more interactive and full of classic horror elements, something like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho or even Steven Spielberg's Jaws. I'd even say the route sometimes recalls James Wan's horror films. We interact with more tangible powers, which we couldn't even see. Nick's route is directly cosmic horror in its more classic sense, of course followed with political themes. Here we deal with a creature, something more superior, something that could even be called pessimistic and full of elements of science fiction horror, with claustrophobic elements. Here, the plot has a horror romance in which we see the faces of the most evil characters, Hendrix and his company, and this element is actually further explored in Williams' plot. Williams' route is more noirish, something more like detective-like horror, a route that falls into the category of thriller films I like most, detectives facing a force greater than themselves. Films like Twin Peaks, Cure, Seven and Zodiac, The Silence of the Lambs, and even Vertigo falls into this category. If in Nix we explore monsters, in Williams we explore the pure evil of the work.
It ain't about things being easy. It's just something about this place and the brothel. Most folks I talk to there feel the same way. Like this place is a place you move to, you stay for a while, and then you keep on moving once you scrape together enough money. Everybody's just constantly coming and going. You know, I am emotionally crippled, thank you very much.
I also really like the art in this 1BN. More than just the erotic aspect, it has realistic backgrounds with Photoshop censorship that makes it appealing. The illustrations in this are great, with different styles, considering that different artists and collaborators worked in this novel. The art here is important through the CGIs themselves, with the carnal scene being a debatable element. This novel actually has a very strong erotic charge, almost playing with erotic horror, something that Ridley Scott would even explore in Alien. Many people criticize the novel for overusing these elements to draw attention, and through a certain point, they're right actually. But that doesn't mean that actually those CGIs doesn't have any symbolism symbolic weight behind them. In a certain morbid way, we intimately know the characters in these moments. We see their abusive, weak, and evil undertones behind them. They comply well with Alfonso Cuarón's rule regarding the necessary nature of these CGIs.
Lo que quería ver era que era una metodología, que es lo mismo. En Y tu mamá también casi todas las escenas de sexo están rodadas en un plano único y están rodadas con una libertad, con una cierta naturalidad. Estábamos hablando, Leila y yo, era que cómo todo era una coreografía. Y todo se trata acerca de distintas intenciones. La escena no se trata del sexo por sí, se trata de las intenciones que están detrás del sexo.
Seeing this support only makes me feel happy, knowing that more than one person seen this novel as a great message. Seeing realistic, comical, exaggerated, and above all, interesting characters. Worthy of a soap opera that focuses more on the script. One that talks about guilt, death, and fear. A fear of knowing you won't die the first time. A fear you will see in a clever and terrifying breaking of the fourth wall. And at times, the novel itself evokes a series of almost analog sensations of terror. Something more worthy of a website designed to keep you static and uncomfortable with its images. A chase, an elided gaze, visions and dark intentions. The fear of knowing that you must protect someone you love. And above all, a very Lovecraft-esque fear that makes you see that it corrupts in a folksy way, like a shadow in the corner or in a closet. And although the play talks about death a little more outside of time, it also makes you see that with unity and self-forgivingness, you can have a chance to move forward.
We sometimes forgot how to breathe.
Sam, I'm here to get these people results, not good feelings. Those are just part of the package.
Sam, I'm here to get these people results, not good feelings. Those are just part of the package.
I have never once felt frightened below the ground. But I have felt frightened thinking any time I hold you can be the last time. Because you need to work. And I need to find somebody I do not have to pay to hold. Or find some way to pay to hold you forever. Pay you what you are really worth. Not with pennies.
I've never been scared, even in underground. But I get scared, thinking every time I hold you might be the last, because you've got work to do. And I need to find someone I don't have to pay to hold me. But I won't, because I'll figure out how I'd pay to hold you forever. Pay you for what you're really worth. Not just with pennies.
I have never once felt frightened below the ground. But I have felt frightened, thinking any time I hold you could be the last time because you need to work. And I have to find somebody I do not have to pay to hold. Or find some way to pay to hold you forever. Pay you what you're really worth. Not with pennies.
I have never once felt frightened below the ground, but I have felt frightened, thinking any time I hold you can be the last time. Because you need to work, and I need to find somebody I do not have to pay to hold, or find some way to pay to hold you forever. Pay you what you are really worth, not with pennies.
Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention. Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention. Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention.
Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention. Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention. Linguistics might not necessarily be my area of expertise, but I like to pay attention.
You know, I am emotionally crippled. Thank you very much. It ain't about things being easy. It's just something about this place and the brothel. Most folks I talk to there feel the same way. Like this is a place you move to, you stay for a while, and then you keep on moving once you scrap together enough money. Everybody's just constantly coming and going. Sometimes I think I'm too selfish, doing what feels good, or who feels good, in spite of the values I was raised on. But then I talk to somebody like you, and couldn't be envious one bit about what selflessness does to the mind of a man. No, sir, not envious one bit.
You know, I am emotionally crippled. Thank you very much. It ain't about things being easy. It's just something about this place. And the brothel. Most folks I talk to there feel the same way. Like this is a place you move to, you stay for a while, and then you keep on moving once you scrap together enough money. Everybody's just constantly coming and going. Sometimes I think I'm too selfish, doing what feels good or who feels good in spite of the values I was raised on. But then I talk to somebody like you and couldn't be envious one bit about what selflessness does to the mind of a man. No, sir. Not envious one bit.